In this exercise, we are going to be using the SQL Server bulk insert command to move data from a CSV file into a table in the SQL Server environment. So before we proceed, there are some critical information you need to have at hand. It includes the location of your file. In my case, it is going to be this one. I have it on the F drive, a CSV file called Daily Internet Usage by Age Group. So you need the file path. You need to know a bit about the structure of the file. Does it have a header column? How are the columns separated? It could be comma, pipe, or even a tab. From what row does data start in your file? Usually it will be from row 2 if you have headers. And if you don't have headers, it will be the very first row that you will have the actual data coming from. And then how are rows separated? Most of the time it will be with this new line character /n. It will be invisible if you look at the data in your regular notepad. But in Notepad++, you might be able to expose the hidden codes in the file, and you can see that in most CSV files it will be the new line separator. It could be something else too. So the simplest form of bulk insert is what we are going to be using today. And the format for that is bulk insert into your target table from your file path with, and then you see where we use all of the parameters that you've learned about the file. Where does the first row start? Is the CSV file, comma, delimited or tab or whatever, you indicate that here. And then row terminator will be that one there. Most of the time it will be the new line character. And then let's move on. So these are the things you need. We will have a brief look at the file itself before we go on to the SQL Server environment. So I have the file open here. This is what the file looks like. The very first row in there contains the headings. And then the actual data starts from the second row going down. In this file, we have 2,800 rows of data. Let's briefly look at that. 2,800 rows of data. Right there. We are going to try and consume this data into SQL Server, into a table. But before we go ahead, we would need some more information from this file so that we can be able to create the target table. So I have gone ahead and extracted a list of these headers here, and then I have tried to attach next to each heading the type of data that is contained in that column. So you see the very first one is user ID, it's a number. The second one is a date, and going on like that until you get to the very last column, internet type, which is actually a VARCHAR. So you need all this information because when you do bulk insert, it is going to map each of these columns in here to the target table. So you have to make sure that when you're creating the table, you create the columns in the same order that you have the columns here in the file. And of course, you have to make sure as well that the types match. So if we look at I think with this information, now we can move on to SQL Server to try and create this table. So if we go into SQL Server, so that's our exercise file. I have all this prepared already. This is the same information which we have been told from where we started, and I am going to include this in the description section of the video, including this link to the Microsoft documentation on the bulk insert so that you can read up more about it. So here in our exercise environment, I have gone on and created a database called lesson notes. So if you see here, we don't currently have any tables in this database. The first thing we would need to do is to create the target table where the data is going to move into. Now, if you see from the list of columns that we saw earlier, the same one, I have directly put that into our create table statement. Of course, you can go ahead and create the table manually if you like, but it's much quicker to use a command to create your table. So I have moved, everything is in the same order, the same way we have it in the CSV file, including the types have been defined as well. So let's go on and run this command. Successfully completed. So if we refresh the table tree right now, we should see our table. Our table is right there. If we expand the tree, the columns are all there. So that's step number one. Once we have the table ready, we can move on to the next step, which is to execute the bulk insert command itself. So if you remember, it is bulk insert, target table, and then the path to the file, and then you include these other parameters. By studying the file, we saw that the actual data starts from the second row inside the file, because the first row is the header. You don't want to put that. We've already created the columns, so we just want to consume from the second row where we've got the data. So if we go back to SQL Server, and then the field terminators as well, we saw our file is comma delimited. So if you see here, the columns are separated by comma. The columns are all separated by comma. The same way, the data is also separated by commas. So the new line character, like we said, is invisible in this notepad editor that I am using, but in some other editors you can be able to reveal the hidden codes, and you will see in this case the new line character is /n. So going back to SQL Server, we've indicated all that. So bulk insert is ready to work. So if we execute this, we expect to see 2,800 rows of data. It's done it, 2,800 rows affected. So how do we know? If I move beyond these nodes that I have added here, let us do a count. What's the name of our table? Demo, that one. We should see 2,800. That's it. Let's have a quick look at the data itself. The data looks okay. So you would see the content of the CSV file has been imported into a table in SQL Server. And that's the bulk insert statement for you. So don't forget to subscribe. All of these notes will be linked in the description section, and you can further read more about the bulk insert statement using this link, which will also be in the description section of this video. Thank you for watching.